Last summer, everything went wrong for me. I'm 42 years old, and I've spent my whole life working this family farm. My crops didn't grow, the sun scorched the land, and now my beloved bull was dying. I knew I had to figure something out. I wasn't used to making tough decisions like this, but I was desperate. I put up an ad online, hoping someone would want to take him off my hands. A stranger reached out. He wanted to trade. I wasn't sure what he had to offer, but I felt like I had no choice. When he showed up, he brought an old statue. It wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. It looked strange, almost out of place. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe it would bring me good luck. After some hesitation, I agreed to the trade. After that day, things started to feel off. The sounds in the barn changed. My cattle didn't settle down. They stomped and snorted like they sensed something I couldn't. Every night, I heard unsettling noises, scratching, low growls. I felt my heart race. But when I went to check, everything seemed normal. Still, I couldn't shake the dread crawling up my spine. I turned my attention to the statue. It sat in the corner of the barn, almost watching me. I noticed symbols carved into the sides. They seemed to shimmer in the darkness. Sometimes I thought I heard whispers, but I couldn't be sure. The statue felt linked to my farm, or maybe something much darker was at play. One night, I went out to check on the cattle. The moonlight made the barn look eerie. I stepped inside, my hands trembling as I flicked on the light. It barely lit the corners, and I felt cold air wrap around me. The cattle were restless, staring at the statue as if they saw something I didn't. I couldn't look away from the statue. It felt like it was pulling me in. The whispers grew louder, each word so close but I couldn't make it out. My heart raced. I don't know how long I stood there, but I felt eyes on me, unseen but heavy. I thought about my bull, about how much I had lost and what I had traded it for. Then I heard a voice low and haunting. "You don't belong here." I spun around, but the barn was empty. My heart hammered in my chest. Maybe I was losing my mind. I backed away, desperate to escape, but something pulled me back. Facing the statue again, I saw a small carving that hadn't been there before. It felt like a warning. What had I brought into my life? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The whispers around me grew louder, as if urging me to understand, but I couldn't grasp what it meant. All I knew was that I had made a trade that I would never forget. I had exchanged my bull for something unsettling, something waiting for me in the shadows. The next morning I woke up to an uneasy silence. The usual sounds of the farm seemed muted. I immediately thought of the statue and how it had changed the atmosphere around me. There was a heaviness lingering over my land that I couldn't ignore. The cattle felt it too. They huddled together, eyes wide with fear, as if waiting for something to happen. I decided to take a walk around the farm, hoping some fresh air would clear my mind. But as I stepped outside, a chill ran down my back. The fields looked different, almost twisted. The sun was shining, yet shadows crept along the ground, moving unnaturally. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying strange, unintelligible sounds. I felt a pit grow in my stomach. Then I heard it, a faint humming. It came from the barn. My heart raced as I hesitated at the threshold. The door creaked as I pushed it open, and the smell of hay mixed with something rotten filled my nostrils. I scanned the barn, my eyes landing on the statue. It was illuminated by a shaft of light, and something shimmered on its surface, calling to me. I approached cautiously, the whispers swelling around me. They seemed to form words, but I still couldn't make them out. As I reached the statue, I noticed something else. The base was sticky, like something had spilled there. My stomach churned at the thought of what it could be. That's when I saw it. Something dark crawling near the statue. It was a rat, swollen and grotesque, its eyes glowing with an unnatural intensity. I recoiled, but it seemed drawn to the statue, moving as if possessed. I backed away slowly, my instincts screaming at me to leave. Suddenly it let out a guttural screech and darted away, disappearing into the shadows behind the hay bales. "What in the hell?" I muttered, glancing back at the statue. The symbols seemed to flicker, pulsing like they were alive. I dropped my gaze, trying to shake off the growing dread. I needed answers, and I had to find out more about what I had brought into my life. I rushed back to the house and grabbed my laptop. The only way to understand the statue was to research it. I spent hours searching online, but most of what I found only confused me more. Ancient symbols, dark rituals, warnings about bargains made at a cost. I felt like I had walked into a nightmare. Then I found a forum discussing similar experiences. Individuals had traded objects and received strange gifts in return, gifts that led to their ruin. Reader after reader spoke of terrible consequences. My breath hitched. They had not just traded things, they had traded their very souls. I slammed the laptop shut, panic welling inside me. I didn't want to believe what I was reading, but deep down, I knew. The statue wasn't just an object, it was a gateway to something horrific. As I paced, I heard the unmistakable sound of scratching at the door. I froze. It was too quiet outside. The scratching continued, more determined. Something was trying to get in. My heart raced and I reached for the nearest object, a heavy wrench, before edging toward the door. "Who's there?" I shouted, but the scratching only grew louder. I gathered my courage, twisted the doorknob and pulled it open. What I saw next made my blood run cold. Shadows poured into the space, and I realized I had awakened something I couldn't control. This wasn't over. Something was coming for me, and I wasn't sure how much time I had left. I stepped back in shock as the darkness surged into the room. It twisted and morphed, forming shapes that felt alive, whispering my name in a chorus of voices. I gripped the wrench tightly, my knuckles turning white. It was as if the shadows were aware of my fear, feeding off it, drawn closer by my uncertainty. "Get back!" I shouted, though my voice trembled. I swung the door shut, but too late. One of the shadows darted forward, slithering through the gap like a snake. I stumbled backward, my heart racing. Whatever I'd unleashed was already inside. The air grew colder, and the shadows swirled around me, making the room feel smaller. I looked for a place to hide, but this was my home, my sanctuary. They shouldn't have been here. I had to fight. I flicked on the flashlight from my workbench, aiming it at the encroaching darkness. The beam cut through the shadows, and for a brief moment I saw its true form. A mass of shifting shapes and eyes, glimmering like stars in the night. They blazed with a hunger I couldn't fathom. I felt bile rise in my throat. "Leave! Get out!" I screamed, swinging the wrench wildly at the shadows, but they simply laughed, a sound that echoed in my head, chilling me to the bone. The more I fought, the stronger they became. It was a losing battle. Then, in the dim light, I noticed something moving among them. A figure. It was the rat from the barn, its grotesque form now larger, more menacing. The creature moved with an unnatural grace, its glowing eyes locked onto mine. It jerked its head as if asserting dominance, and I felt a strange compulsion to follow it. I resisted. I wouldn't let the darkness take me. I turned to flee, but as I moved, the shadows tightened their grip, swirling around my ankles. I stumbled, falling hard to the ground. The wrench clattered away, lost in the chaos. In that moment of panic, I remembered the statue. It had to hold the key to all of this, maybe even a way to undo the mess I had created. I clambered to my feet and dashed toward the door. The shadows howled, the rat screeching in fury. Bursting outside, I took a deep breath of the fresh air, but the calm was deceiving. The fields lay still and ominous, the sun high in the sky, yet darkness followed me like a shadow. I sprinted to the barn, my mind racing. I had to face the statue again. It seemed to pulse with energy as I approached, the air thick with an electric charge, but I wasn't here to bargain. I was here to confront whatever I had released. My hands trembled as I reached out to touch the surface, feeling the symbols under my fingers vibrate. That's when I heard it, a deep rumble beneath the ground. The earth itself seemed to protest, shaking as if warning me away. My heart raced anew, and I realized this was only the beginning. I needed to act fast. Before I could think, I felt a presence behind me. Turning slowly, I faced the shadows, now coalescing at the entrance. They were closing in, ready to consume me whole. And then I saw it. A glimpse of a figure emerging from the shadows, eyes locked onto mine, filled with a knowing that chilled me deeper than I ever thought possible. I took a step back, and in that moment I understood. The true horror wasn't just what I had unleashed, it was what I had unknowingly invited into my life. As the figure approached, I knew I had to make a choice: fight, flee, or find a way to reclaim what I had lost. The clock was ticking, and each second felt like a heartbeat echoing my terror. The figure stepped closer, revealing a face I almost recognized. It was a twisted version of Carlos, the farmer who lived down the road. His skin, once tanned by the sun, now appeared drained of color. Shadowy tendrils clung to him, writhing like snakes. My stomach dropped. What had happened to him? "Help me," he mouthed, but no sound came out. Just the low hum of the shadows growing louder. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. I was paralyzed by fear and confusion. "Stay back," I shouted, half fearing the thing he had become. But before I could react, the shadows surged, engulfing him. The transformation was sickening as the light drained from his eyes entirely, leaving them cold and hollow. I gasped, backing away as the darkness laughed, rich and malicious. My breath quickened. "What do you want?" I screamed at the swirling mass. The shadows didn't respond, only tightening their grip around me, crawling up my legs. I could feel the cold wrapping around my heart, squeezing tighter. With every passing second, the shadows grew in confidence. Suddenly, I remembered the statue in the barn. I had to reach it. I tore my gaze from the horror in front of me and darted toward the barn door. Each step felt like running through molasses. I could still hear Carlos's silent pleas echoing in my mind, urging me to stop, to help him. But I couldn't. Not now. Bursting through the barn doors, I twisted to my left, eyeing the statue as I sprinted toward it. The darkness trailed behind, shrieking in a chorus of angry voices. I could feel their frustration and hunger for me, a palpable energy that sent chills racing down my spine. I arrived at the statue, my hand flying over the intricate carvings. I needed to find something, anything, that could help. The symbols pulsed against my fingertips, filled with a strange warmth. Deep down, I felt it resonating with my own fear, like a heartbeat calling out to me. In that moment of contact, I saw flashes of images, a glowing light, the figure of the rat, and then Carlos again, his face twisted in agony as shadows crawled over him. I pulled my hand away, gasping. This was bigger than I ever imagined. Then I noticed a section of the statue that was slightly askew, as if it could be turned. I hesitated, feeling the pull of darkness closing in. The whispers grew louder, disorienting me. If I didn't act fast, I wouldn't have a chance. With a surge of determination, I twisted the part of the statue that felt loose. It clicked into place, and suddenly the air around me crackled with electricity. The shadows screeched, retreating momentarily as blinding light burst forth from the statue, illuminating the barn like a sunrise. But before I could take a breath, the shadows retaliated with a furious howl. I glanced back and saw them swirling, forming a massive, undulating shape, more powerful and more determined than before. Now I had a choice: wield this newfound energy or be consumed by what I had set free. I drew a harsh breath and prepared for the worst. Would I finally end this nightmare? Or was this just the beginning? A new dread settled in as I realized I had awakened something far more dangerous than I'd understood. A blinding flash filled the barn, illuminating every shadow. I could barely see through the sudden glare, but I sensed the shadows thrashing behind me. They weren't gone. They were just regrouping. My heart hammered in my chest as I felt the power of the light coursing through me. I took a step forward, hoping the warmth would guide my actions. The throbbing glow from the statue pulsed as if alive. I reached out again, drawn to its energy. The warmth seeped into my hands and radiated through my entire body. I closed my eyes, envisioning Carlos's face twisted in torment. I had to do something for him, for all those who had become prey to this darkness. I could hear the shadows circling, their whispers weaving together to form a low, disturbing hum. I opened my eyes, determined to face my fears. I saw the swirling mass starting to condense, a dark vortex forming near the back of the barn. "Stay back," I shouted again, more forcefully this time, hoping to show them I wasn't afraid. The wind picked up, swirling dust around me, and for a moment I felt powerful, like I could challenge the shadows. But doubt crept in. What if I can't control this? What if the light just attracted more darkness? With every thought, a crack in my confidence grew. I turned back to the statue, searching for answers amid its engraved symbols. Then I spotted something moving in the corner of my vision, a dark figure on the periphery of the light. I squinted, trying to see clearer. There was something alive in the shadows, something other than Carlos. A pair of glowing eyes watched me, dark and hungry. The creature stepped into the light, revealing itself as the distorted silhouette of a bull, its bones cracking with every movement. It should have been a farmer's beloved bull, but its once proud stature now radiated darkness. Horrified, I took a step back. This couldn't be the same bull from last summer, could it? Carlos had traded it. Trade it for what? A wave of nausea rose as pieces started to click into place. Carlos was gone, but the bull was here. Something had switched. Something had gone horribly wrong. The bull snorted, a low, guttural sound that merged with the whispers of the shadows. Its breath came out as a frosty mist, mixing with the warmth of the light. I had to act. I couldn't just let this continue. Summoning the energy from the statue, I raised my hands, feeling the light radiate outward. The whispers grew louder, as if shouting against my defiance. I felt the pull of shadows trying to latch onto my limbs, dragging me down. But I held steady, focusing on the warmth, letting it echo in my heart. In that moment I realized that I was no longer just a bystander. I was part of this fight now. I had to wield the light against the darkness, or risk becoming another victim in this twisted game. Then, just when I thought I was gaining control, I felt a sharp pain slice through my palm. I looked down and gasped. A tendril of shadow had pierced the light, intertwining with my skin. I could feel a cold creeping through me, stealing the strength I'd just grasped. I was losing control as quickly as I had found it. And in that instant, I knew the stakes had risen. There was something far more unsettling going on, and if I couldn't unravel it, I might not make it out alive. How could I stop this darkness without becoming part of it? Just then, I heard a faint voice amidst the chaos, drowning beneath the howls of the shadows. "Help me." It was Carlos, his voice barely a whisper, but it reached me. The barn began to tilt, and everything around me trembled. I had to choose, save him, or save myself. I felt the weight of Carlos's voice wrap around me, pulling me like a lifeline through the chaos. My heart raced as I looked back at the bull, its eyes burning with rage and confusion. I couldn't leave him, not when he was out there, somewhere lost in the darkness. But how could I fight this creature? I focused again on the statue, searching for a memory of the stories Carlos used to tell me. He'd spoken of ancient powers, of spirits exchanged for a price. Every story felt like a warning now, What if that bull was part of a bargain gone wrong? What if Carlos wasn't just missing? What if he was trapped within that shadowy entity? I took a shaky breath, the cold tendril still wrapped around my hand, draining my strength. I had to push back. I couldn't let the darkness take more than it had already. I concentrated harder, channeling everything I had into the light. "Carlos!" I yelled, hoping my voice would reach him. "I'm coming!" The bull flinched at my words, and for a brief moment, its snarl softened. Somehow, I felt a connection to whatever was left of Carlos within it. I took a step closer, willing the light to expand. With every inch I moved, the shadows hissed, slashing at my ankles, desperate to reel me back. But I wouldn't yield. If I could just touch the bull, maybe I could break the curse. I could see a flicker of recognition in its eyes, a brief glimpse of the bull it once was. Was that Carlos's spirit trapped inside? I needed to act, before the darkness clawed back at me. Desperation fueled my movements. I lunged forward, reaching out to the bull's muzzle. The shadows lunged too, a wave of cold fear washing over me. My heart raced in rebellion as I brushed my fingers against its fur. In that moment, the light exploded around us, wrapping the bull in a golden glow. The bull rose on its hind legs, letting out a roar that shook the very barn. I felt my mind clear as the warmth seeped into the creature, fighting the darkness. I saw images flash through its eyes, Carlos smiling as he fed it, moments of joy, friendship. Then darkness crept in, binding and choking those memories. A surge of energy rocketed through me and I cried out, "Remember who you are." The shadows writhed, letting out a cacophony of anguished howls. I pushed harder, feeling the line between me and the bull blurring. If I was going to save Carlos, I had to tear this darkness apart. The glow intensified and the air crackled with energy. Suddenly the shadows recoiled. They pulled back and writhed in a frenzy, disoriented by the light. Then I noticed something glimmering in the vortex, a small glowing orb trapped within the chaos. I couldn't tell if it was a piece of the bull or something worse. "Carlos!" I shouted one last time. My voice echoed in the barn, merging with the energy surrounding me. The bull stumbled, and I finally saw his spirit, a faint, translucent figure trapped within the swirling black mist. But as I reached for it, the barn floor erupted beneath me. Everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, the world was different. Instead of the barn, I found myself in a foggy void, a place that felt neither here nor there. My body felt weightless, as if suspended in a dream. Panic clawed at me, and I gasped for air that wasn't there. "Carlos!" I called out again, but my voice faded into the mist. I felt a pull, like an invisible thread guiding me forward. It took me a moment to notice that I wasn't alone. Shadows flickered just beyond the edges of my vision, darting away whenever I turned to face them. Were they remnants of that bull? Perhaps echoes of Carlos's spirit? A sense of urgency bubbled within me. I had to find a way out. As I moved, the fog seemed to respond, swirling and parting like a curtain. Then I saw it. A door, trembling slightly as if it were real, but also somehow not. I rushed toward it, the shadows whispering behind me, their voices like a distant storm. Just as I reached the doorknob, I felt a sharp tug at my ankle. It was a shadow, gripping me tight, pulling me away from the door. "No. Let go." The panic surged again as I kicked, my heart racing. The cold of its touch crawled up my leg, trying to siphon my strength. In desperation, I pushed my thoughts toward the light I had conjured before. I envisioned that golden glow, how it had wrapped around the bull, filling it with warmth and clarity. The shadows shrieked, and the more I concentrated, the stronger the glow became. "Yes," I shouted, feeling the warmth spreading through me. The shadows recoiled, hissing and writhing. Suddenly, I noticed the door growing dim, fading into the fog. I couldn't let it disappear. I needed to get through. I concentrated harder. "Carlos, fight with me," I yelled, hoping my voice would reach him wherever he was. A flicker of light came from the depths of the fog. I could almost see it, a glimmer, a small spark that reminded me of the orb I'd seen before. It began to grow, slowly replacing the chilling darkness with warmth. But just as it reached for me, a deafening roar shattered the silence. I spun around, and to my horror, the bull materialized from the fog, larger than life, its eyes aflame once more, but with a cold emptiness that made my heart drop. "Carlos," I whispered, desperately searching for the spirit I had seen moments before. Was this creature still him, or was it the darkness that had taken over completely? "No!" I yelled, backing away. The bull stomped forward, shaking the ground beneath me, its breath hot with menace. Just when I thought I was losing everything, something flickered in my peripheral vision. The glowing orb was racing toward me, pulsating with radiant energy, and I knew it was my only chance. I felt its warmth threading through the shadows, making them shrink back. Before I could react, the bull charged at me. I braced myself, knowing this was the moment that would change everything. Would I be able to save Carlos, or become lost in the chaos myself? Then everything changed again. I felt the door behind me burst open. I stumbled through the door, not sure where it led, but I couldn't go back. The moment I crossed the threshold, the sounds of the bull faded. I gasped, my heart still pounding. I was in a new place, but it felt familiar. The barn. It was dark, the air thick and musty. The familiar sense of hay and leather surrounded me, but something was wrong. This barn looked older, worn down. The walls had cracks running through them, and the floorboards creaked like they hadn't seen foot traffic in years. "Carlos?" I called out, my voice echoing softly. There was no response. I moved cautiously, the shadows in the corners seeming to watch. As I stepped further in, I spotted something on the floor. It was a glimmer of light, not unlike the orb from before. I knelt down to investigate. It was a key, rusty and cold, shaped like a simple heart. "Where did you come from?" I whispered, turning the key over in my hand. Suddenly the barn door slammed shut behind me with a loud thud, making me jump. Fear prickled at my skin. I was trapped. I turned to the opposite wall. There was a door there too. I could tell it was a door because of the faint outline, yet it was covered in shadows. It beckoned me, just like the last one. I felt another pull, stronger this time. But before I could move, another sound broke through the anxiety, a soft moo. My heart raced. "Carlos," I said again, that spark of hope igniting in my chest. I rushed toward the sound, moving deeper into the shadows. As I rounded a corner, my breath hitched. There, in a small enclosure, was a bull. It had the same dark, shiny coat and the same fierce eyes, but even in the dim light, I could see the sadness in its eyes. This wasn't the same Carlos I remembered. This bull seemed ghostly, like it was a mere projection of the creature I had known. I crouched down, uncertainty flooding through me. Are you okay?" I said, the words feeling inadequate. The bull moved closer, its breath warm against the chill of the barn. As it reached the bars of the enclosure, I could see what lay beyond it, a barrier of shadows, swirling and restless as if they were alive. Fear washed over me. What were they? Just then the barn floor shook beneath me. The shadows surged forward, creeping closer to the bull. I could sense something dangerous on the horizon. A thick mist poured from the corners, wrapping around us both. "No!" I shouted, jumping to my feet. The bull was trapped. I had to find a way to save him, to save us both. My fingers brushed the rusty key in my pocket, and a thought hit me. The other door. I sprinted back toward the door I had spotted before. The shadows hissed behind me, angered by my escape. I needed answers. about Carlos, about the shadows. But first, I had to unlock whatever lay beyond that door. I reached for the doorknob, feeling the cold rush against my skin. Would I find the way out, or unleash something worse? Then everything turned dark again. I blinked, and the darkness lifted as quickly as it had come. I found myself standing in front of the door, a faint light flickering from the other side. The key felt heavy in my palm. I inserted it into the lock, my heart racing. With a creak, the door swung open, revealing a vast expanse of sunlight flooding in. I stepped through and gasped. This was not just another barn. The airy space was filled with lush greenery, vines draping from the rafters and flowers blooming in rugged patches of soil. Yet it felt surreal, almost too vibrant. But it didn't take long for the beauty to twist into something foreboding. I heard whispers, quiet and chilling, echoing through the space. They seemed to come from deep within the walls. My breath quickened. What were they saying? My imagination was running wild, but I had to find out. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. The whispers hushed, replaced by an unsettling silence. For a moment I thought I was alone until I noticed the far side of the barn. There was something moving. It was a figure, hunched over, shrouded in shadows. I squinted, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. As I stepped closer, the figure straightened, revealing a man. He looked like he belonged to another era. Dusty boots, tattered overalls, and a deep furrow etched across his brow. I felt a chill, an undeniable sense that he was not right. "Who are you?" I asked, cautious but curious. He smiled, and the warmth of the sun dimmed. "Just a farmer," he replied. His voice was rough, laced with weariness. "You shouldn't have come here, child. The barn isn't what it seems." "What do you mean?" My heart pounded as I took a step back. "Those shadows," he gestured behind him. "They've been here longer than I have. They consume everything." I looked over my shoulder. The shadows were curling against the walls again, restless. The connection to Carlos was distant now, overshadowed by an eerie certainty. "What about the bull?" I asked, trying to stay focused. "Where is Carlos?" His expression darkened. "Carlos doesn't belong to you anymore. He's part of this place now. The shadows chose him, just as they will choose you if you linger too long." I couldn't comprehend his words. "What do you mean? I won't let that happen." I instinctively reached for my pocket, clutching the key tightly. "You think that key will save you?" he said, his eyes narrowing. "It only unlocks doorways to other fates. Some doors should stay closed." A loud crash interrupted us. As if the barn was responding to his words, the shadows surged, creeping limitlessly toward us both. My body tensed. I felt trapped again, this time not just by physical walls, but by the weight of choices closing in. "Run!" he shouted, and without thinking I turned to flee back through the lighted doorway. The shadows shrieked behind me, an angry chorus, and I raced through the barn, the terror of being consumed urging me onward. Just as I reached the door, something solid obstructed my path. I froze, heart in my throat. The man's warning echoed in my mind. I had to move. But then I turned back and saw the figure standing his ground, shadows swirling around him strangely, like he belonged to them. That's when I realized he wasn't just warning me. He couldn't escape either. I bolted through the door, my heart pounding as I stepped back into that foggy void, the whispers of shadows swirling around me. The weight of their presence pressed on my chest, threatening to pull me back into the nightmare. But I couldn't look back. I kept moving forward, finding a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. "Carlos," I called out again. The name felt heavy on my tongue, a plea that reverberated through the nothingness. My hands gripped the key in my pocket, a tangible reminder of the connection to the other side. Maybe it could bridge the gaps, create a doorway to his spirit. The whispers crescendoed, urging me to turn around, to embrace whatever figures danced in the darkness behind me. But I couldn't. I wouldn't allow the shadows to claim me. I pushed ahead, my mind racing with thoughts of Carlos. The laughter, the calmness, the gentle way he cared for the bull. I had to find him. Suddenly I felt a shift in the air. The fog thickened, swirling with purpose as if trying to lead me. The invisible thread grew stronger, tethering me to something. I took a deep breath and pressed on, the shadows shifting further from my path. Whatever this force was, it wanted me to succeed. Before long, I spotted something glowing in the distance. It was faint, but beckoned to me. As I drew closer, it expanded until I could see the outlines of familiar structures taking shape. A barn, the fields behind it, the blue sky overhead. I staggered forward, hope rekindled. The glowing door appeared before me, similar to the ones I had encountered before. It shimmered, pulsating with energy that thrummed in my veins. Without hesitating, I slipped the key into the lock. With a metallic click, the door swung open, revealing a blinding light beyond. I stepped through, and the world exploded back into vibrant color. The sun blazed overhead, warming my skin. But I knew I wasn't safe yet. The whispers still lingered in the wind, and the familiar unease crept back into my heart. The bull was still out there, somewhere between shadow and substance. "Carlos!" I shouted into the open fields, my voice ringing out like a challenge. A soft wind rustled through the grass, but there was no reply. I took a moment to collect my thoughts, breathing in deeply, focusing on the love and memories that I shared with Carlos. Then I spotted him, a figure in the distance standing by the barn. My heart soared. Carlos! I ran toward him, the weight of shadows still pressing at my back, tugging at my heels. The closer I got, the more I realized it wasn't quite right. There was something different about his presence, something hazy and ethereal, almost like a memory awash in sepia tones. "Help me," he mouthed again, but no sound came forth. I stumbled to him, the air heavy with unease. "Carlos, it's me! I'm here!" I pleaded. My heart raced as I reached out, desperate to bridge that divide, to pull him back from whatever darkness had claimed him. But the shadows surged, wrapping around his figure like a shroud, pulling him back. My blood ran cold. I wouldn't let him go. I had to fight, too. With renewed determination, I raised my hands, summoning any strength I had left. "I'm not afraid," I proclaimed, channeling the warmth I had felt when facing the bull earlier. Light sparked at my fingertips, glowing with energy as I pushed forward. The shadows recoiled at my defiance, swirling around the edges of the barn. Carlos's figure flickered like a flame against the encroaching darkness, the two forces wrestling as I fought for him. With one final surge of energy, I screamed, "Remember who you are!" The light expanded, illuminating Carlos's fading figure, the connection pulling him toward me. The shadows howled, screeching against the brightness threatening their grip. His eyes met mine, and in that moment, I felt something shift. The bull appeared behind him, struggling against the shadows that clawed at it. "Let him go!" I yelled, and as the light flared around me, shadows wailed. I could sense the strangeness, the agony in their desperation. "Carlos!" I called again, pouring any ounce of strength I had left into my words. He faltered, the shadows swirling tighter, but suddenly a flash of recognition sparked in his eyes. He took a tentative step toward me, the connection of shared moments bridging the gap. The shadows hissed in warning, thrashing wildly as if to pull him back. But I wouldn't let them win. I focused on every joyful memory. Us laughing together, working the land, the times spent in the barn, surrounded by the simplicity of our friendship. "I believe in you," I shouted, a final rallying cry. In the chaos that ensued, I felt the warmth of hope radiating through me. The shadows shrieked, falling back, as Carlos stepped through the flickering barrier, caught between the worlds of light and darkness. It felt painful, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. Finally, the barriers broke. The light surged through the barn, dispersing the mist that clung to us. The cacophony faded, and for the first time, the whispers went quiet. As the last remnants of shadows fled, Carlos embraced me tightly. I could feel his warmth solidifying, anchoring me in a way I hadn't dared to hope for. But even in this moment of reunion, a lingering question remained. Was the light fully victorious? Could we remain untouched by ever-looming shadows? The barn felt calm again, but shadows never fully disappear. They always linger. That uncertainty would stay with me. I smiled at Carlos, knowing this battle was only a piece of something larger, shrouded in mystery. The fields were bright, the air alive with possibility, but somewhere in the corners of my mind, I still wondered if the shadows would return, and I moved forward, hand in hand with Carlos, unsure of what lay ahead, but ready to face whatever mysteries were still waiting for us.